Telling a story isn't about perfection, it's about communication. It's about our shared moments together. Hi, my name is Jeff Price, and I would like to welcome you to Intentional Musicianship, where we look at everything that goes on at center stage and the preparation behind the scenes needed to transform your performance into an unforgettable experience. I am here to encourage you, support you, and generally have a great time being united together with you through music. After a wonderful performing career as a storytelling musician around the globe, my joy is found in empowering musicians to find the freedom to go beyond the music stand and the fourth wall of the concert stage to better engage with their audience members. This podcast isn't a classroom, it's a brainstorming session, and it is meant for musical performers of all ages. Together, we'll explore performance practice, stagecraft, the nuances of storytelling, and the strategies for genuine audience engagement. We're here to discover what truly makes a live performance resonate. So, for today's show, we're going to talk about misdirection, maybe some sleight of hand. We're going to have seamless transitions, and we're going to have ways that we can maybe refocus the audience on different parts of the stage or other musicians in real time during the show to help increase their audience engagement and their experience while allowing you to take a well-needed breather. Now, who doesn't like a good magician, a good prestidigitator? They take great care in cultivating that relationship with the audience, but they're always in control about what and where the audience is looking and what they're seeing, because they're creating an experience, a moment for the audience. And I think that's something that we as musicians maybe can underestimate. And so sometimes when we're in a practice room, we'll focus on those notes and we'll focus on those musical moments. But then sometimes it's important to just sort of look back. And I bet magicians do this. And they have to evaluate what the audience is seeing and when, and how we can use that staging or that choreography to actually effectively enhance the show. And so a couple principles from this, we just have that misdirection concept where we're going to divert the audience's attention. So here's a couple ways that this might come up. At the end of the piece, traditionally, sometimes at places I've been, the performer will just go off the stage. And it's like every piece, they go off the stage, there's all this dead space. And then 2 minutes later, they come walking back on, the audience applauds, and then they go about their business. Now, the opportunity missed when doing that, even though it has a tradition, depending on where you're playing, that might be the norm, is that we have all that dead time. And it's like, when you're listening to the radio or you're watching something and you get the test pattern and nothing's happening, that means the audience is sort of uncontrolled, left to their own devices. Now they're creating their own narrative and their own story. And there's a time and place for that, especially with the music as you direct them. And I think that people are just really used to these highly produced shows that you might see in musical theater or a play or TV or a movie. And so that experience, we can bring that to our musical performance, our show, in the same way. There's a lot of ways that we can do that. And so when we work on our storyboards for the show, then we're going to start working on the timing of when we're going to have to execute this sleight of hand and where we're going to then put the focus or shift to another person or another group on stage or an area on stage, so that whatever you do need to get done, if you need a break or if someone other than you needs to be highlighted, gets that focus. And there's a lot of ways that you can do this. And a lot of it's not as complicated as you think. It's just one of those things that, in the context of just doing shows, you'll probably go, I do that already. That's a good one. I've done that before too. And so it might be an effective use of a spotlight where one part of the stage goes dark and then one part of the stage is lit up so that, effectively the audience goes directly to where that spotlight is. And then that gives you the time to do what you need to do because you're not in that spotlight. A lot of times, uh, as a woodwind player, particularly, people might swab out or do something, change a reed. And those kind of things are normal human experiences as a musician. And they don't have to be hidden, but we can just sort of misdirect for the time. In fact, one of the keys and when I storyboard is that when I'm changing things and I have to swab out, I actually bring the audience into that discussion, that part of it. I let them know why I'm doing it and why that's a part of it and why this is normal. And it allows for that non white space time to occur where we're actually connecting and communicating. And so in that case, I'm refocusing them to a story within the bigger, larger musical story where they're getting to connect and understand who I am. Now, apart from that spotlight, another thing that you might be able to do is that these video interludes. And we can use a lot of pre-done music videos as transitions. As technology's changed, most performance venues have this ability to have these videos and this B-roll that can play. And a lot of that can introduce a piece where the audience will just divert their attention to this area where you could walk off stage, you could change costumes, you could swab out, you could change your music. The stage manager could come and reorder the stage. You can make the video for any length that you wanted. And I know in the Army band program, the Army music program, we used to do that a lot when we played concerts to remind people of soldiers overseas, and we'd have introductions from people from that local area. Oftentimes, you might even have connections to different people that are from the area who might want to introduce you or talk about you, and you can always get that pre-recorded. You could always do these recorded transitions as well, especially if you're like don't like to speak live on stage. You could do these videos to introduce pieces or tell people about yourself, sell you as the product, so to speak. Tell them about your experience, why this show's important, why that area is important, why that audience is important. And so when you do that in those videos, you're keeping that connection and you're spinning the story, you're controlling that story in the same way as that magician continually works with that audience so that they get that big moment. And I think the neat thing about that is we can sort of just map through the show where those effective points are going to be, where you're going to need that break, where you're going to need that breather, so that you just don't have to walk off stage. But let's say you did have to walk off stage. You have friends and you have musical colleagues that might be able to help you. Maybe you're a accompanist for the evening. Maybe that's the time they get up and they say a few words while you're off stage. In the same way as this video, we have a live human person, and now we have double the communication and the interaction. What if you're in a larger group with a quintet? Well, now we have a lot of opportunity for misdirection and refocusing, especially in these transitions, because we have 5 of you to get to know. And we have 5 different unique stories. And a lot of the things told can be even embedded within the musical pieces because maybe you're getting set up for a piece that focuses on the horn. And depending on how you want to refocus people, this is an opportunity for you to tell a better story. Now, it's important to understand when you're doing this sleight of hand to sort of understand the stage and the position of things on stage, understand how you're using the stage effectively, if everything's just center stage or if everything's down stage, right or left. And we can move to these various points and we can use spotlights and we can do all those things that we were talking about that give the audiences a different viewpoint. And I think we can think of these opera scenes we've been to, or we can think of plays where effectively you can use the entire stage effectively to communicate better. I love all this concept of using this because the performers take this time and they sort of become invisible. And it gives the illusion that you were there the whole time. It's just you weren't the focus of anything. It allows those stage managers that you might have, those people that change your props or change the stage. It allows you to do things quickly and effectively, but it has to be practiced. It's not one of those things that you can just do once on the day of the show. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm really big on technical rehearsals and walkthroughs in such a way that you have to understand how to do the show without just playing the show. And sometimes it's really good to do it in real time to understand that that transition takes X amount of time. Now, if you're a high school band director or a college director, again, we have more opportunities for more misdirection, especially even when we're playing. When you're playing and you're not the soloist, you as the performer or the conductor can subtly direct attention to the other musician with your eyes, with your facial expression, with a nod, with a gesture. And those kind of things really help because then we as an audience who don't know the pieces as well as you will understand what to look at. And that really works out well because, let's say we're in a bigger ensemble. We can have people stand up. And so now we see Bobby, Susie, and Jill in the trumpet section. Or then we see Ed and George and Jane over in the tuba section. Hey, we finally get the percussion section involved. Or maybe we have such a way that we have someone talking, setting up a piece, but at the same time, they're setting up the percussion in the front row so that then we can effectively hit that next piece. And it just goes really smoothly. Now, I get it. This sleight of hand isn't as exact as a magician. And in fact, sometimes you go to the show and you like to see what happens with those transitions. You like to see how quickly people can set things up because a lot of that human interaction, it's fun to see those changes and transitions, but it gives you some opportunities. And so you as a solo performer, we've talked about transitioning in the songs, and maybe you can tell the story of the song. You can set up. Sometimes you might do the costume change and be really effective, and maybe you're just changing something with a handkerchief or something as part of your hair, or maybe you put on gloves, and you can tell the story and say, "Okay, I think I'm ready for the next piece now." At the end of the show, and then the audience gets it because then the next piece starts out with that story and that effective transition. And then, we have that band, we have many people, and maybe we set a visual mood where we're changing from one set of performers to another. It's easy to see, in the old days, we had MTV, and MTV had music videos, music television. Later on, it was known for reality shows. But when they had videos and they had people on stage, it was interesting because the director could always, it was like a movie, they could cut the scene and they could redirect things. And they could change the camera angle. And that's sort of what we're doing with this misdirect live. We're using these new people, new positions, videos, spotlights, talking, soloists to give people a fresh new perspective of the show. And so we're able to sell things. And so when I think of all the different kind of brainstorming possibilities, got a couple telltale excellent things to do. Like we're talking about those videos and those storytelling segments with others. We have a lot of people engaged with you in the show. It could be your sponsor, it could be your teacher. One thing though is when you have this sponsor and when you have these other people coming in, you want to have them as practiced and rehearsed as you are, or that they're ready for it, that you understand. So many times the sponsor comes up, they don't have their time limit, they don't understand their role. And that part of the show that you meant as an introduction or a thank you, or maybe a sleight of hand, just kills the buzz or the mood of the show. And our job, the opportunity that we have is to build on this and to grow from this and it's one of those things as you storyboard is to highlight if you think it's going to be effective and then make sure it's going to work. Now, for example, if the sponsor is not going to be effective because maybe that person is just not a great guest speaker, but it's just so wonderful that that person would be there, maybe you could bring them up and you could do the talking and you could do the thanking. And if they said anything, it would just be, thank you, Jeff, for coming and being a part of the area for this evening. We appreciate it. Where you've done everything to set the stage, but then they've allowed that final little bit of distraction so that you can continue that segue and continue on with things. Again, we have segues and we have that collaboration where we can go back and forth. And one of the things that we can do is we use that stage. We have where we look and where we walk. We usually don't have people look at us and our back unless you're a conductor. And so when we turn around, people really aren't supposed to be looking at us. We're trying to hide something from them. That's like, we're changing reeds or we're doing something that like swabbing out. And so when we do have a turnaround, hopefully we have somewhere where the audience can focus. So it's good that when we have that positioning and we do turn around, we make sure that someone takes over and we do that transition so that you can do that. And when I think of those magician techniques and we think about what we're doing, we are using those props. We're using how people look or some comedy to distract people, allow us to have that quick change, keep things interesting and the audience is engaged. And as we coordinate these cues and we know how things work, then I think we can really, really have a more effective show. So as you think about this, I'd love to hear from each and every one of you and hear the kind of things that you've done as your sleight of hand, as misdirection, either as a segue or within the show to get people to have their attention on others. There's just so many ideas and ways that you could do it that can help control your audience in a positive way and continue building that amazing musical experience. Now, if you like some of the concepts and ideas that we talked about today, I would love for you to reach out and talk to us here at Intentional Musicianship. I have the link in our show notes, but it's just intentionalmusicianship.com. I'd love to hear your feedback on some of the ideas that we presented today and get to know your specific needs better. Each of you are personally welcome to schedule a free meet and greet Zoom call. Don't worry, this isn't a hard sell or anything. It's just a way that we can start to build a relationship together. That's it for today's episode. We hope that some of the topics and issues addressed today will be useful to you as you move forward in your musical journey. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you for joining us today. We know your time is precious, and we really appreciate that you have taken the time to listen to us today. Consequently, we'd like to hear from each and every one of you. You can reach out and connect with us at intentionalmusicianship.com. My hope is that we build a community where we can encourage one another through our mutual experiences performing live music. I look forward to connecting with each of you again on the next episode of Intentional Musicianship.